All right, let's jump right in. This AI summit in Paris, it kind of blew up in everyone's faces, right? Big goal, supposed to be everyone on the same page for like developing AI, regulating it, all that.
Yeah, yeah, big ambitions.
I mean, they even had this whole declaration, super high-minded stuff, openness, transparency, sustainability. They called it AI for good. I mean, come on, who doesn't love that?
Sounds pretty good on paper.
And tons of countries were into it. I mean, over 60 signed up: France, China, India, Canada, big names, right?
Yeah, no, that definitely shows a lot of countries want to work together on this AI future.
Totally. But here's where things get weird. The US and the UK, they refuse to sign territory. What's the deal with that? Just like a diplomatic oops, or is there something bigger going on?
Well, officially, the UK said it wasn't clear enough, the whole thing, about how AI would be governed globally and how it affect their own security.
So they're worried about global AI rules messing with their own security stuff. Interesting. But let's be real, the US is the big story here. Their VP, JD Vance, he gave this speech at the summit. It was
Hmm.
not
Hmm.
subtle.
Oh, he definitely had some strong opinions.
Way more than just wanting clearer language, right?
Yeah, Vance basically said Europe's whole approach to tech regulation is going to kill innovation. He was particularly riled up about the EU's Digital Services Act.
Okay, hold up. For those of us who don't speak EU law, what is that thing? What's the big deal?
Well, in a nutshell, it's a bunch of rules to make the internet safer. Tackling illegal content, online harms, making those algorithms more transparent.
So, like, making sure big tech behaves itself.
That's the idea. But Vance was like, hold on, these rules are way too broad. He thinks they could backfire, hurt businesses, even mess with free speech online.
So the US is worried about Europe clamping down too hard on big tech and accidentally squashing AI progress. Got it. And Vance didn't stop there, did he? What do you have to say about China?
Oh, he definitely had some thoughts. He was really hammering on the risks of working with China or any authoritarian regime on AI.
Authoritarian regimes, strong words.
His worry is that collaborating gives those countries access to sensitive data, tech, stuff that could give them a big advantage, maybe not in a good way.
Okay, so the US is anti-regulation and scared of China. Where does that leave the UK? They sided with the US, right? Were they pressured? Or are they actually changing their whole stance on AI?
That's the million-dollar question.
Mm.
Some people think the UK is like snuggling up to the US on AI, going for fewer rules and all that. Maybe they're even worried about US AI companies boycotting their AI Safety Institute if they're seen as too strict.
That'd be a huge hit to their AI scene, for sure. But the UK government, and even a spokesperson for Keir Starmer, they both denied any pressure from the US. They said it was all about the declaration being unclear. So are they being honest or just trying to save face? Tough to say.
It's a tricky situation, that's for sure. The UK is trying to stay friends with both the US and the EU,
Yeah.
and they also want to be a big player in AI. It's like walking a tightrope.
Yeah, this whole snub really shook things up. But before we get into the fallout and all that, let's back up. What was in the Paris Declaration that caused so much drama? All that inclusive and sustainable AI stuff, what did it actually say?
Well, it lays out some key principles for AI, like it's got to be transparent, we got to know how it works, what data it's using. Then there's fairness, making sure it doesn't discriminate against certain groups,
Yeah.
and accountability, making sure the developers are responsible for what their AI does.
So basically, setting some ground rules for AI to make sure it's ethical and all that good stuff. But it sounds like for the US and UK, those ground rules were a little too groundbreaking.
Yeah, you could say that their reaction seems to say they'd rather have a lighter touch when it comes to AI. Maybe they think innovation and being competitive are more important than super strict ethical rules.
And that difference in how to handle AI, that's causing some serious pushback, right? Especially from people worried about what happens if AI runs wild.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Groups like Full Fact and the Ada Lovelace Institute, they're pretty vocal about it.
Mm.
They're saying this whole snub could hurt the UK's rep as a leader in responsible AI, and it might even mess up global efforts to tackle things like AI-generated misinformation.
So it's like two totally different visions for AI. One side wants global teamwork and ethical boundaries. The other wants to go their own way and focus on being the best. It's a pretty
Wait.
big clash, huh?
Yeah, it's like the classic struggle between progress and being careful. And the choices we make now, those are going to echo for a long time.
No pressure, right?
Yeah.
But this isn't just some philosophical debate, is it? This has real-world consequences, especially when you look at those super powerful AI systems like large language models.
Yeah,
Let's get into that, yeah.
absolutely. These things are changing everything so fast, we got to understand what they mean in this whole AI debate.
Yeah.
So large language models, right? Basically, you feed them tons and tons of text data, like the books, articles, code, even online chats, all that.
So they're like, what supercharged writing machines? What makes them so different from, like, my phone's spell check? What can they actually do?
It's pretty wild what they can, I mean, they can generate different creative text formats, translate languages, write all sorts of creative content, and they answer your questions. Even if they're like open-ended, weird, make you think, they even tailor their answers to how the conversation's going.
Whoa, that is seriously impressive. No wonder people are both excited and kind of freaked out about these things.
Yeah, I get it. On one hand, you've got the potential for amazing breakthroughs, communication, education, even art. Imagine, like personalized tutors, chatbots that seem totally real, novels written by AI. It's mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's like straight out of sci-fi, right? But which kind of sci-fi? The happy utopia or the dystopian nightmare?
Exactly, and that's where this whole AI regulation debate gets even more intense, right?
Yeah.
Do we need stricter rules for these models? Or is that going to stifle all the cool stuff they could do?
Million-dollar question, for sure. It's obvious these large language models are a game changer, but figuring out how to handle them responsibly, that's a whole other story. And this Paris thing, the US and UK saying no thanks, that seems like they want to keep their options open, right?
Could be. They might not want to be tied down by global rules, especially if those rules get in the way of them using AI, like for national security. Vance specifically mentioned that as a reason for not signing.
Right, so the stakes are crazy high. We're not just talking about some fancy writing software anymore. It's about who controls AI, who has the power, all that. No pressure or anything, huh?
Definitely not. And that brings up a really important point. This Paris summit, even without the US and UK, it shows how divided everyone is on AI. Some want stricter rules, more global teamwork. Others want to do their own thing, worry about their own interests first.
It's like a global tug of war over the future of AI.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sound like it's going away anytime soon, huh?
Nope, not a chance. As AI keeps getting more advanced, this debate's only going to get more heated. The choices we make now, they're going to decide whether AI becomes like a force for good or a whole new set of problems.
Looks kind of heavy, huh? But let's try and be optimistic for a sec. Let's say the world actually figures out how to work together on this. What would a good outcome look like? What should we be aiming for in this AI race?
The ideal scenario, it'd be finding that balance, pushing innovation, but also dealing with the ethical stuff, the impact on society. We need agreements, global ones, that make AI development transparent and accountable, making sure these powerful systems are used responsibly for everyone's benefit, not just a few.
So look, a global safety net for AI sounds great, but is that even possible? Everyone seems to have such different ideas about what responsible AI even means.
It's a tall order, for sure. But look, over 60 countries signed that Paris Declaration. That shows they want to work together, which is a good starting point. Now it's about building on that, talking things out, finding common ground.
And what about us regular people? Do we have any say in all this? It's easy to feel like this is all happening way above us, governments and tech giants making all the decisions. Can we actually influence how AI develops?
Absolutely. As AI becomes more and more a part of our lives, we got to stay informed, ask questions, make ourselves heard. We got to hold those governments and companies accountable, make sure they're developing and using AI ethically and responsibly.
So we can't just sit back and wait to see what happens. We got to be involved in shaping this AI future. That's a pretty powerful message. But how do we actually do that? Where do we even begin?
Lots of ways to get involved. First off, educate yourself. Learn about AI, the good stuff it can do, the risks that come with it. Pay attention to how you're already using AI every day. Don't be afraid to ask questions like, how's my data being used? What kind of protections are there? Support groups that are fighting for responsible AI. And maybe most importantly, talk about it. Talk to your friends, family, community. The more we talk about all this, the better chance we have of making AI work for us, not the other way around.
Okay, I can get behind that. Educate ourselves, stay involved, speak up.
Got it. But let's go back to Paris for a minute. We've talked a lot about the US and UK's no vote, but what about the countries that did sign? What's their take on all this? Are they all on exactly the same page, or are there different shades of opinion even within that group?
Good question. It's important to remember, even though they all signed, those countries probably have different priorities, different ways of doing things. For example, China's gone all in on AI, sees it as a way to boost their economy. The EU, on the other hand, they're really big on data privacy and ethics.
So even the pro-regulation side isn't a monolith. It's more complicated than just pro versus anti.
Exactly. And that's key to understanding how tricky this global AI governance stuff is. It's not black and white. It's about finding ways to balance all these different interests, values, priorities. Which brings us back to square one. How do we navigate this crazy landscape and make sure AI benefits everyone. We've talked about global teamwork, ethical rules, citizens getting involved. But are there any actual steps being taken? Are there any groups out there making real progress on this? All right, so we've tackled the global AI scene, all the different opinions, the ethical stuff. But let's get down to brass tacks. How's all this AI craziness going to affect us regular folks, in our daily lives?
Well, in a lot of ways, AI is already kind of woven into our routines, even if we don't realize it. Like, think about those personalized recommendations you get on Netflix, or how your GPS finds the fastest route. Even spam filters, those are AI too.
Right, so AI's been working in the background. But what about the changes we'll actually notice? How's AI going to shake up our homes, our jobs, how we interact with the world?
Work is definitely going to be a big one. As AI gets smarter, it'll be able to do more and more tasks, things like data entry, customer service, even more complicated stuff like legal research or medical diagnoses.
So the robots are taking over. That's what everyone's worried about, right? But is it really all bad news? Or could there be some upside to this whole AI revolution in the workplace?
It's not necessarily about robots replacing us completely. It's more like AI becoming our partner, helping us do things better.
Yeah.
Imagine AI assistants taking care of all the boring paperwork so we can focus on the creative stuff, the big picture thinking. Or AI tools that can analyze mountains of data, giving us insights that would take us forever to figure out on our own.
So AI as a teammate, not an enemy. That's a more hopeful way to look at it. But even if AI creates new jobs, there's going to be a learning curve, right? People will need to adapt their skills, figure out how to work alongside these super smart machines.
Oh, absolutely. Learning new things will be more important than ever. We'll have to be flexible, always learning new skills to keep up with the job market. But beyond just work, AI is going to change our personal lives too. Think about smart homes that know what you need before you even ask. Personalized health advice based on your own data, even AI companions that offer support and friendship.
Sounds like having a personal digital assistant, taking care of everything. But what about privacy? All this data AI's collecting, how do we know it's not being misused?
That's a critical point. As AI gets more intertwined with our lives, we need strong rules and safeguards to protect our privacy, make sure our data is being used ethically. This goes back to what we talked about earlier, the importance of global cooperation and responsible AI development.
Right, it all connects, so it feels like we're on the edge of a massive shift. AI's about to change everything, how we work, how we live, how we connect with each other. It's exciting, but also kind of scary, don't you think?
Yeah, I'd say so. It's a time of huge potential, but also a lot of unknowns. But like we've been saying, we're not just passengers in this. We have the power to shape this future. We got to stay informed, be part of the conversation, and fight for AI that's developed and used responsibly.
Couldn't have said it better myself. This has been a really eye-opening conversation. Thanks for walking us through this crazy world of AI.
My pleasure. And remember, listener, this isn't the end of the road. Keep learning, keep asking questions, stay involved.
Perfect way to wrap things up. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into AI. Until next time, stay curious.